Imagine this. You're at the table, dice are rolling, maybe some laughter, settling in for another D&D session. You think you've got a handle on where the story's going, but then bam, a casual chat in a tavern just spirals completely. A character, maybe even like meets this really grotesque end, and then out of the mists, this huge, monstrous new hero appears, already carrying this heavy, fresh grief. It suddenly feels less like just rolling dice and more like you're actually writing some kind of dark fantasy movie, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that right there, it just shows you something core about really powerful D&D. It's not just about the rules of the dice. It's about how a really skilled dungeon master strategically weaves the narrative. They turn game mechanics into these like cinematic moments, things that resonate. They stick with you way after the game's over. That's the astonishing level of storytelling we're unpacking today. Welcome to a deep dive into episode 14, aptly titled The Red Widow, from Admiral Blackbeard's gripping Curse of Strahd campaign, Into the Mists. So our mission really is to dig into how a Dungeons & Dragons campaign like this one masterfully navigates these huge dramatic twists, the profound impact of character loss, and the surprising, even brilliant introduction of new personas.
Exactly. We want to show you how compelling storytelling uses every single moment, even the really brutal ones, to build a richer, more engaging narrative.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll not only have a quick, thorough understanding of these creative storytelling techniques, but also, hopefully, walk away with some truly surprising facts about how these kinds of epic stories get crafted. So, let's pull back the curtain on Admiral Blackbeard's world.
All right, let's dive into the first act of this incredible narrative. We're picking up precisely where our last deep dive left off, remember?
Yep, the Zerflowers.
Exactly. The party had just successfully gathered the mystical Zerflowers, hoping to cure a devastating plague sweeping through the town. But one of their members, a character named Loghain, had taken a slight detour.
Ah, yes, Logie.
He'd met a local girl, Charlotte, at the tavern and, well, went home with her, promising to rejoin the party the next morning.
And this is pretty classic Barovia, actually. These seemingly normal, everyday social things, they often turn out to be the start of something much, much worse. It sets this kind of deceptively casual stage before the horror drops.
Yeah, because the party's first reaction wasn't exactly panic, was it? It was more like typical adventurer humor, dark humor.
Oh, yeah, definitely gallows humor.
They were making jokes, weren't they? About Loghain maybe having too good a time with Charlotte, speculating about things he may be missing afterwards. They were literally placing bets on what state he'd be in when he showed up again. Definitely making light of it.
And that initial lightness, it's crucial. It's a classic narrative trick, really. It kind of lulls everyone, the characters and you, the listener, into this false sense of, well, maybe not security, but normalcy before the actual horror hits. Makes the impact way bigger.
So their first move was to ask around. They talked to Ismark, a local NPC, asked him about Charlotte. He points them towards her house, tells them it's in the Southwest District. And the party, naturally, immediately jokes about it being the red light district.
Of course they did.
But when they got there, to Charlotte's house, the vibe changed. Big time. The place looked lived in, sure, but it was just covered, eerily covered, in cobwebs everywhere. Really unsettling, a huge contrast to the cheerful tavern they'd just left.
Yeah, that's great environmental storytelling right there. Those cobwebs, they're not just background fluff. They're a huge visual warning sign. Creates immediate unease, tells the players, and tells you, okay, something's wrong here. They're stepping into danger.
And then came the discovery. The one that just sends a chill right down your spine. In the bedroom, on the bed, they found it. A human-sized cocoon made entirely of web.
Oh, boy.
That's when all the joking just stopped. Dead silence, I imagine. The atmosphere in that moment, you can just imagine it thick with dread as they carefully, hesitantly cut the cocoon open.
And inside, oh God, inside, they discover the truly horrific remains of their friend Loghain. He's been poisoned.
And not just any poison.
No, it's specified as red widow venom. They desperately try everything they can think of to save him. Spells like scare the dying, the cantrip that stabilizes some.
Right, stops them from dying outright.
Cure wounds, basic healing, even lay on hands. The paladin's big heal.
But nothing works.
Nothing. The devastating, sickening realization slowly sets in. Loghain is truly irreversibly gone. I mean, I can only imagine the gasp around the virtual table at that point.
And this is where the narrative really ratchets up the horror from just tragic to truly grotesque.
Yeah.
Because it gets worse.
Oh, yeah.
To make things even worse, Loghain's corpse's mouth begins to move. Then suddenly, hundreds of tiny spiders start crawling out.
Ugh.
Swarms of these baby spiders immediately attack the party members, and if that wasn't enough horror, Loghain's torso apparently undulates as more spiders emerge from inside him. It's just a visceral, unforgettable image.
Absolutely sickening.
The party shifts focus instantly, right? From grief to desperate self-preservation. They're using torches and fire to fight off the swarms. This isn't just a battle, it's a violation, a horrific final insult to their fallen friend.
In that sequence, it really hammers home how unforgiving this campaign world Barovia is. Even with powerful healing magic, some things, some deaths are just permanent. It seriously raises the stakes. Every choice, every risk feels heavier because there's no easy rewind buttons.
So it just erupts into chaos, right? The party's desperately fighting these swarms of spiders. They're using torches, fire, trying to burn the cocoon, burn the spiders. Spells are flying everywhere. There was a breath weapon, cold damage, Word of Radiance, that's like a burst of holy light.
AoE stuff, good for swarms.
Right. Gale Force Wind, Eldritch Blast, that's raw magic.
Yeah.
Zikrin, one of the characters, tried a Hellish Rebuke, like a fiery counterspell, but it missed. It was just this frantic, desperate fight.
That combat scene, it shows the players really adapting under, extreme pressure. They're using all sorts of different abilities, not just hitting things, but controlling the environment too.
But just as they're maybe getting the spiders under control, they hear this shrill woman scream. Charlotte's back, and she is furious because the party killed her babies. And what happens next?
Wow, it's a truly grotesque transformation scene.
And this brings up a really interesting point, doesn't it? Who's the real monster here? I mean, Charlotte grieving her children, even if they are spiders.
Yeah.
She's a villain, sure, but there's a twisted sort of motive there. Her transformation is classic horror, but that primal grief adds this layer of, tragic depth. She's not just a creature feature.
She transforms into this hybrid humanoid red widow spider, like a Drider from D&D lore, right?
Right.
Half spider, half human.
Exactly, that kind of horrifying mix. And the description is intense. The torso of her human form fused onto the body and legs of a large spider. Her fiery red hair, all wild, face contorted with rage and grief. Her dress is tattered, and it reveals patches of this weird, black, kitten-like skin.
Oof. That blend, human and arachnid, especially with details like kitten-like skin, it's designed to trigger that deep primal fear. It's the uncanny valley effect in creature design.
Yeah.
Almost human, but just disturbingly wrong.
So the fight with this Red Widow version of Charlotte was brutal. Zikrin hits her immediately with an Eldritch Blast, a big magic hit, but she hits back fast, uses a thick web attack, completely immobilizes Zikrin, pins him for 2 whole rounds. Another party member, Raven, gets bitten, poisoned. It sounds like a really tough fight.
Yeah, taking out a heavy hitter like Zikrin right at the start with that web, that's a smart move by the DM. It forces the rest of the party to scrabble, to adapt, adds way more tension, makes the fight feel much more dynamic than just, trading blows.
But in the end, the party wins. They take her down. And Zikrin, wow, he's described as just completely furious with everything that has transpired. He grabs a shovel and chops her head off, then takes it and defiantly puts it on a spike in the town square. And he declares, apparently, this is what you get. It really shows the psychological toll, doesn't it? What this kind of horror does to a character in Barovia.
That is an extreme reaction. But it's also a really powerful character moment, isn't it? Born from intense stress, disgust, maybe grief for Loghain too. It speaks volumes about the cost of survival in Barovia, how it can push characters towards these brutal, unsettling actions. And it shows the campaign isn't shying away from depicting a really grim, unvarnished reality.
So after all that chaos, they then have to figure out what to do with Loghain's actual body. Zikrin, still maybe reeling, suggests just burning the whole building down, prevent plague spread, very pragmatic. But others are thinking maybe they should purify the body, try for a proper burial. It's that classic conflict, right? Pragmatism versus reverence, even after such horror.
And what's really compelling there is how the immediate aftermath isn't just, yay, we won. It's about processing the horror. It's confronting these really difficult ethical choices under extreme pressure. That adds such a crucial layer of depth. It makes it more than just killing monsters.
Okay, so leaving that gruesome scene, the story takes a really surprising turn. It shifts completely. We get introduced to Loghain's player's new character, a hulking reborn.
Yeah, and this shift really underscores the flexibility you get in tabletop RPGs.
Yeah.
A character dying isn't always just an ending. It can actually be this dramatic doorway to totally new stories, new possibilities for the player.
And this new character, his appearance is, well, striking is putting it mildly. He's described as a mix between Frankenstein and the Hulk. Very tall, incredibly muscled physique. He has stitching across all his limbs like they were sewn together. And there's visible tubing plus a glass porthole on his chest showing this lime green solution sloshing inside.
Wow.
The description clarifies it, think zombified Iron Man, with that green stuff being his actual blood. And a reborn, in D&D terms, just for context, is someone brought back from death, usually through some kind of unnatural, maybe dark magic or science. And they often bear the physical marks of that resurrection. And he's not alone. He's traveling through the Svalich Woods, that's the big, creepy forest in Barovia, with his young reborn sister. She apparently looks similar, stitched, tubed. They make quite the pair, wandering through this grim landscape.
A really unique pair, yeah. Sets them apart immediately.
So this new character, this monster, and his sister, they find a shallow cave, just looking for shelter for the night, trying to find a bit of peace in these dark woods.
And that's a nice moment, right? A quiet, intimate scene before things inevitably go wrong again. It lets you connect with these new characters, establish their bond, their vulnerability, which makes what's coming next hit even harder.
Because that peace doesn't last long, they hear the sound of wolves in the Barovian night getting closer. And pretty soon they're surrounded. 6 wolves, which is a dangerous encounter for anyone, let alone 2 brand new characters.
Yeah, it throws the new characters straight into the fire, doesn't it? Tests their strengths, their weaknesses right from the start. It's a very efficient way to show what they can do and to establish their immediate problems, their stakes in this world.
The monster, Frank, that's what he's called for now, grabs a sturdy tree limb, using it as a great club, trying desperately to fend off the pack. But the wolves, they're smart. They use pack tactics, tearing into both him and his sister, inflicting massive damage.
He barely manages to drive him off, right?
Barely. But then the horror sets in as he turns to his sister. He was so overwhelmed by the attacks on himself, he hadn't realized some wolves had also focused on her.
Oh, no.
Sadly, his sister didn't survive. Her stitching, her limbs are torn apart, and that familiar lime green solution is pooling beneath her body. The episode ends right there, with the monster's sad, silent realization of his profound loss. It's just gut-wrenching. Immediately draws you into this new story.
It really is. But here's the twist, the really fascinating part we learned from the sources.
Ah, the planning.
Exactly. What's truly fascinating here and brilliantly revealed in the source material is that Logan's death and Frank's introduction were completely pre-planned.
So it wasn't just a random twist of fate or a bad die roll. It was deliberate design.
Correct. The player behind Logan had always wanted to play this specific Frankenstein-esque reborn character native to Barovia. But since the campaign started outside Barovia,
And only the Vistani can get in and out freely.
right, the Dungeon Master devised this brilliant solution. Create a temporary character, Logan, give him a compelling reason to be with the party, and then weave in a narratively sound, impactful death once they were inside Barovia. This paved the way, organically, for the player to switch to their original desired character, Frank.
That is truly brilliant planning. But okay, let me ask you this from a GM's perspective. What's the trick to orchestrating such a deliberate character swap without the players feeling like their agency is being undermined? How do you make a pre-planned death feel earned and impactful rather than just, like a railroaded event?
That's the core challenge, isn't it? And it seems Admiral Blackbeard executed it flawlessly. It's about understanding what you might call pre-scripted player agency.
Okay, explain that.
It's where the GM plans a specific narrative pivot, like Logan's death, specifically to enable a player's long-term character vision, like playing Frank, but crucially, without the player feeling forced or their choices negated.
So the key is that the player was in on it. They wanted the transition.
Exactly. The player actively wanted to make this switch. So Logan's death wasn't just a plot device. It was an integral part of making the new character, Frank, fit naturally into Barovia's lore and the ongoing story. The GM designed a gateway, not just a dead end. It shows this deep collaboration between the player and the GM, where narrative integrity and player satisfaction are both honored. It creates a richer story that respects the player's ambition while upholding the internal logic of the world. It's not about taking away choice, it's about crafting choices that lead to even more compelling stories down the line.
I think that's the crucial distinction, designing a gateway, not an endpoint.
Right.
And this new character, Frank, with his unique backstory and that striking appearance, that zombified Iron Man vibe with the glowing green orb,
Yeah.
He's poised to significantly influence the party's decisions and the whole narrative, right? And the party hasn't even met him yet at the episode's close.
Nope, not yet. Which just adds to the anticipation for future deep dives, doesn't
Yeah.
it? What kind of impact will a radioactive, stitched-together Hulk Frankenstein have on a party that just fought a Red Widow spider monster?
Exactly. His very existence, his sorrow, and those distinctive physical traits, the radioactive blood, the visible stitching, they aren't just cool visual elements, they're narrative hooks.
Hmm.
They tell a story about his origin, his struggles, his potential abilities, all without him needing to say a word yet.
Mm.
This tragic introduction of Frank, it immediately builds empathy. It invests the listener, and eventually the other players, in his journey, even after such a brutal loss with his sister. And understanding that this entire character swap was a planned, collaborative effort, it just elevates the storytelling to a whole new level.
It really does.
It showcases how game masters and players can work together to create these profound and emotionally resonant narratives. It proves that even seemingly brutal character deaths can be carefully constructed gateways to entirely new and compelling story arcs. It's about recognizing that every narrative element, even character demise, can serve a larger, more intricate design.
Absolutely. It creates this fantastic sense of anticipation, doesn't it? How is Frank, with his unique look, his immense grief, his unusual physiology, how is he going to change the party dynamic? How will he impact the story moving forward in this dark world? His arrival is definitely a game changer.
Wow. What a journey just in this one deep dive, huh? We went from like a casual tavern bet to this horrifying spider infestation, the shocking death of one character, and then straight into the dramatic, really tragic arrival of this complex new hero, all seemingly orchestrated beautifully by a skilled DM.
So we've journeyed through an extraordinary D&D campaign today, one where death isn't merely an ending, but a really dramatic pivot, opening doors to shocking revelations and the profound transformation of characters.
We saw the visceral, spider-infested end of Logain, and the tragic, wolf-torn beginning of Frank, this Frankenstein-esque monster whose very existence embodies the campaign's clever, collaborative narrative design. It really is a masterclass in making every moment, even the final ones, count for something more.
This deep dive, it really prompts us to consider, doesn't it? How does the anticipation of loss, or maybe the thoughtfully planned introduction of a new persona, enrich the emotional tapestry of any story, not just D&D?
That's a great question. What kind of profound narrative possibilities are unlocked when a character's demise is a carefully constructed gateway, a deliberate narrative choice, rather than just, well, a final conclusion?
Right. Think about how many stories use a death, or even a sudden disappearance, not as a resolution, but as the very spark that ignites a character's true journey or maybe reveals a deeper mystery.
Absolutely. Well, we hope this deep dive into the Red Widow has given you a fresh perspective on the art of storytelling and character development in these kinds of dynamic narratives.
Perhaps it's even sparked some ideas for your own stories, or at least made you appreciate the incredible craft behind tales like Admiral Blackbeards. What stands out to you from all this?